My name is Michelle Martinko. I was born on October 6, 1961, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I was a daughter, a sister, a dreamer. I loved the spotlight, the feeling of being on stage in a theater production, the rhythm of the twirling squad, the harmony of the concert choir at Kennedy High. I was a senior. I had my whole life ahead of me, a life that was set to begin at Iowa State University, studying interior design. But my story ended on December 19th, 1979. I want to tell you what happened, not just how I died, but how I lived, and how the truth, after being silent for so long, finally found its voice. Music subtly shifts. It was a cold Wednesday night, December 19th. I'd just come from our Kennedy concert choir banquet at the Sheraton Inn. I felt so beautiful. I was wearing a black jersey dress, black pantyhose and heels, and my favorite waist-length white and brown rabbit fur jacket. I carried a brown leather purse with $180 inside, money I was so excited to spend. I had my eye on a new winter coat, and it was on layaway at the Westdale Mall. The mall was new, it was exciting, and I even worked there part-time. I asked my friend from the twirling squad if she wanted to come with me to finally pick it up. She couldn't. I asked another acquaintance, who said yes at first, but then she changed her mind. So I decided to go alone. It was just a quick trip to the mall. What could happen? I remember the lights of the mall, the sound of my heels on the tile floor. I saw friends, people I knew from school who worked in the stores. We laughed and talked. The last place anyone remembers seeing me was around 9 p.m., just outside a jewelry store. I was alive. I was happy. I was just a girl trying to buy a coat. That was the last confirmed moment of my life. What happened next? I can't tell you from my own memory. But the evidence, the investigation, it tells a story I need you to hear. At 2 a.m., when I still wasn't home, my dad, Albert, called the police to report me missing. He was so worried he went out looking for me himself. I can only imagine his fear. At 4 a.m., they found our family car, a tan and green 1972 Buick Electra, parked in the northeast corner of the Westdale Mall parking lot, over by the J.C. Penney. I was inside. I was collapsed over the passenger seat. The medical examiner would later say I died between 8 and 10 p.m. I had been stabbed 29 times, in my face, my neck, and my chest. The police said my hands had defensive wounds, that I had fought back bravely against whoever attacked me. They said the killing felt personal because of the sheer number of wounds, but my purse with the $180 was still there. I was fully dressed, I had not been assaulted, they had no motive, they had no fingerprints, the killer must have worn gloves, they had almost nothing. For my family, the world shattered. The police launched an investigation. They appealed to the public, and hundreds of tips poured in. They interviewed person after person. They even used hypnosis with witnesses to create a composite sketch of a man, white, in his late teens or early 20s, about 6 feet tall with curly brown hair. But the leads went nowhere. A prime suspect emerged, a man who had committed a terrible, violent rape at knife point the month before, but he denied killing me, and years later he would be ruled out by evidence that didn't exist back then. There was a controversy. A woman came forward months later saying she saw a man by my car at 2 a.m., but the information never reached the detectives initially. It was one more dead end. The case grew cold. My father, heartbroken, tried to sue the mall for negligence. He died in 1995, never knowing the truth. My mother, Janet, passed away in 1998. They went to their graves not knowing who took their daughter from them. I was just a memory. A cold case file in a box. But my story wasn't over. In 2006, something miraculous happened. A new cold case investigator was reviewing my file, and he found something that had been overlooked, something that would change everything. He found blood that wasn't mine. It was on my clothing. The killer had cut himself during our struggle. He had left a part of himself behind. From that blood, they built a partial DNA profile. It was so specific, they said fewer than 1 in 100 billion people would match it. They entered it into the national database, CODIS. but there was no match. They swabbed over 125 people, cleared more than 60 suspects, but the killer remained a ghost. The years kept passing. 2006, 2010, 2015. 37 years had gone by. Then, in 2017, the Cedar Rapids police tried something new. They hired a company that specializes in DNA phenotyping, creating a physical likeness of someone just from their DNA. The new sketch they released was different from the 1981. This man had blonde hair and blue eyes. It generated new tips, but the right ones still hadn't come. The real breakthrough came in 2018. That same company took the killer's DNA profile and uploaded it to a public genealogy website called GEDmatch. They were looking for relatives, and they found one, a woman who was likely the killer's second cousin, once removed. They built a family tree from her ancestors. It led them to a set of 3 brothers from Manchester, Iowa. One of them was named Jerry Lynn Burns. He was 25 years old back in 1979. He would have been 64 at the time. The police put them under surveillance. On October 29, 2018, an investigator watched Jerry Burns at a pizza ranch. He drank from a soda straw and threw it away. When he left, the investigator collected that straw. It was all they needed. The DNA from Jerry Burns's straw was a perfect match for the blood found on my clothing 39 years earlier. On December 19, 2018, the 39th anniversary of my murder, investigators went to his business to interview him. He refused to voluntarily give a DNA sample, so they got a warrant. When they asked him how his blood could have been in my car, on my clothes, on the night I was killed, he had no explanation. He didn't deny killing me. He just kept saying, "Test the DNA," so they did. And it matched. He was arrested that day. His trial began in February 2020. The evidence was overwhelming. The DNA was the star witness. A former cellmate of his testified that Burns told him if he kept beating him at a game, he'd have to take him to the mall. When asked if he could have blocked out the memory, Burns just questioned if that was possible. On February 24, 2020, after just 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Jerry Lynn Burns guilty of the first-degree murder of Michelle Martinko. On August 7, 2020, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. My sister, Janelle, was there. After 40 years, our family finally had justice. My parents, I hope, finally had peace. Burns appealed, arguing the police shouldn't have taken his DNA from the straw without a warrant. But in March 2023, the Iowa Supreme Court upheld the conviction. The justice I fought for in that parking lot was finally completely secured. So, this is my story. It's a story about a life filled with promise, tragically ended. It's a story about a family enduring grief. But most of all, it's a story about hope. Hope that even when a case is so cold it seems frozen in time, truth is still waiting. It's in a drop of blood, in a discarded straw, in the relentless pursuit of justice by those who refuse to forget. My name was Michelle Marie Martinko. I was here. I mattered. And now you know my story.